everyone, Dana here again with more Tuesday tips. And this week, the very urgent and serious topic of disaster preparedness, general resiliency in any disaster or emergency, and emergency response with volunteers, both needing services during an emergency or able to give services to the other neighbors and rest of the community in the case of an extreme weather event or natural disaster or any other kind of emergency that we may be faced with. Yes, I will acknowledge that a 5 or 7 minute video isn't going to cover everything. That's not the point of Tuesday Tips. Tuesday Tips are here to give you some quick ideas and resources and ways to get more information to dig into that. There are absolute experts on this subject, and I'm going to link to some of them in the comments below. Now, the most important thing that you can do as an individual is really read up on what are the official government steps and response scenarios that are in your neighborhood. The agencies that train to this, literally as their main mission, it's usually involving local fire departments and city and county services, are called N.E.R.T or C.E.R.T, Neighborhood Emergency Response Training, or Community Emergency Response Training. If you've never done it, it's actually a lot of fun. I've been certified many times over the years, but that is a great resource for just 1 and 2 page lists for go bags, printouts, how to do emergency communication plans for your household, for your agency, for your community. And it also is a great information resource for what to expect, like what kind of services can I expect, and how can I help my neighbors if I am able to and I have enough resources and I'm uninjured and I have time, how can my resources help other members of my community? Now, very often there are already mutual aid groups and community support networks that are in place. Check into it if you're not a part of one. If you are a part of one, please add your site and how to contact you in the comments below so people can find you better. A huge part of whatever happens with volunteer response in an emergency or disaster is supposed to be with official steps through government procedures and agencies who are designed to deal with it. Sometimes that works really well, and other times pieces or all of that process and that system fail because they're under-resourced or the people in charge are injured or unable to respond. Now, when that happens, it is even more crucial that we as individuals and as volunteers and members of our community know what to do. So if within your agency, if you are not directly involved with a government agency or you're not the kind of nonprofit that does emergency response or community support, reach out to those who do. Learn the procedures, learn the process, create a communication and partnership support plan with multiple other agencies, including informal or ad hoc groups like mutual aid groups that are specific to certain neighborhoods or parts of your city or county or state. And the other thing to keep in mind is that when disaster strikes, we're all impacted by it. So that grace and that compassion that, yeah, you know what, maybe homework's going to be late. That assignment isn't going to be in on Monday. I don't have internet for a few days, or I have internet off and on. So being really adaptable and working it into your agency or organizations or even household individual emergency response plan of, okay, how do we get a communication out if we only have internet or electricity for a short amount of time? How can we communicate and with whom outside of the area that's impacted by this? And it's good to get those communications out to areas that can then raise the alarm for help and assistance. We've seen very effective use of retweets and social media and donation links and information links just getting tweeted out all over the place to help people in Texas. Many of my friends are directly impacted with this work. Many of my friends have been stepping up with their teams of paid staff and volunteers to do this great work. Special shout out to City of Plano's volunteer Plano Karina Sadler and Becca Hand, you've both done an amazing job this week. Harrison Adele at the Dallas Zoo and his team has done an amazing job keeping animals and people safe. So again, if it's not within your mission to do this kind of work, I think it's extra important to learn about it. How does N.E.R.T or C.E.R.T or emergency response work in your area? How is it supposed to respond? And what are some other avenues to partner with mutual aid groups or smaller nonprofits, or just get to know your neighbors and who might need extra help in an emergency, and who has what resources that you can pull together. That's really the core of mutual aid, and community is looking out for each other in that way. Now, ideally, you have a written policy of emergency response or disaster preparedness and some training around it with your agency for your entire team. When I worked at the San Francisco Zoo many years ago, we trained very often for earthquake. We're right on the beach. For tsunami, for animal escape, all the kind of things that you would think were typical for a zoo that's right near a coastline. And the thing that we would never be prepared for would be a lot of snow. That would not be something that we would be prepared for because it hasn't happened before. So we have to plan for the unplannable or the unprecedented in this, and the same resiliency steps work for any situation in having an emergency communication plan. If this step isn't possible, if we don't have power, how do we do communication the next step down? Having phone trees, having these networks. Anything that you can do as an individual and in your community to save your life and save other lives, or reduce the harm or the damage done to people in a disaster is great. Anything that works is great. And again, look to these websites and some other resources that I'm linking to below to just learn more. Knowledge is power. When you are prepared with knowledge and you understand what you can do, or what you may or may not have the capacity to do in any emergency or disaster response, that's powerful. That helps that fear factor be reduced, keeping yourself and other people calm. Now, a really simple thing is I've done this with a number of agencies, not just the zoo, but other parks and rec agencies and food service agencies that I've worked with, where I have just a little laminated card that I carry on my person, in a wallet, in a purse, in a bag, in a briefcase, all the time, in a back pocket, that has emergency numbers and a little mini communication plan or phone tree on it if anything occurs. And I'm trained. With each agency, we trained both paid staff and volunteers and board members on what's your role. Like, do so-and-so call so-and-so? If that doesn't work, do you call this person? So just having that plan is extremely helpful in these conditions. And again, lots more resources in the description of this video below. As always, email me if you have any specific questions, and I'm happy to direct you to additional resources or other experts. I'm hoping to have a couple more expert friends and peers talk about this in a little mini series later this month. So watch for more videos with some really specific points for disaster preparedness and emergency response volunteering. So please stay happy, healthy, well. We're all in this together. It's up to us to take care of each other. So we'll see you next time on Tuesday Tips.